many people realize that they are stuck in a situation where they don't want to be. I think many people do that, but they just don't dare to even think about it, to talk about it, or to do it in the end because it's really scary. So when I made the decision to quit my job without any without any plan afterwards, so I told all my colleagues and they were all like, "Oh my God, that's so interesting. I would love to do something similar, but I don't dare. I'm afraid. I couldn't do it. I'm not brave enough." I think that's a problem of the whole system. So you you're working 9 to 5 all year long and you maybe go on vacation for 2 weeks or something, but the first week is to get down a little, so to relax a little, and the second week you already think about getting back to work again. So that was at least my pattern in vacation. So yeah, that's the problem. You cannot relax.
Hey there, folks. Sifu Slim here, coming to you from a beautiful virtual background. That was November in Santa Barbara, California. It was a really special cloud formation. And today I'm coming to you live from Playa del Carmen, which is in the Yucatan in Quintana Roo in Mexico, on the coast, not too far from Cozumel, and up and over you have, well, first you have Cancun, and then up and over you have Cuba. So it's a really cool place. And I saw some black monkeys. They have these long, flat feet and hands. They're really interesting. They look like if you took our human feet and you flattened it to about maybe 15%, that's what their feet look like. They're really cool. And I'm going to bring in Julia Zink from Playa del Carmen and from Germany. And we're going to ask her to say hello and tell us where she's from and if she's ever seen these black monkeys cruising around Playa del Carmen.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Sifu. Thanks for your invitation. I'm Julia from Germany. I'm 28 years old. Have arrived to Playa in October last year, so it's my third month now. But I didn't see any monkeys now so far. So I just saw some raccoons, but that's all. Yeah.
The coati, they're like an extended version of the mapache, which is a raccoon. And America's full of raccoons. Spain has none of them. So when I meet kids in Spain, and then I ask them what a mapache is, and they say, "Oh, it's the thing with the little eye things and it's black." And I say, "How do you know what mapaches are? They don't even have them here. Do you watch them in cartoons?" They said, "No, we just know what they are." This could be a 4 or 5 year old kid I've asked. I have no idea how they know that, but they do.
Yeah. No, I haven't seen. I've been to Spain last year as well, but I haven't seen any raccoons. It's just, but in Germany we do have some. So yeah.
In America, we have too many, and they live in the sewer systems, and they live in their own feces. They make these big piles of feces, and they live and they commune, and that it's very strange lifestyle. Like we have diseases if we get near that stuff, and they thrive, and it's
Oh
very
wow.
very interesting what their gut microbiome and their antibiotics might be. So tell us, Julia, a little bit about how you lived your life so far, maybe some of the bigger transition points that happened to you and your goals and your aspirations, and then we'll get to how things change. So let's start with the original you, and then later on I'll ask you about the new you.
Okay, so my life so far, I said I'm 28 years old. The first 27 years were quite German, I would say. So I was very structured. I went to school. There was no gap in between. Yeah, I went to school. I finished school. I went to university, did my bachelor's and master's degree, and worked. in a tax department, so as a kind of tax advisor for 9 years. And it was a life like in a book, like in a movie. So everybody loves it because it's just safe, it's nice, you have all you need, except from one thing, which is happiness. This is what I didn't have. So after 27 years, there was a big change. So this was the biggest change in my life, and I think I've got another life now. So it really feels like I was reborn. I was born again, and now my whole life changed. So
Wow, you just summed up 27 to 28 years very quickly. So let's go through. How about at age 10? Who were you looking to for ideas, and who were you observing, and what did you think about your status in life and your direction in life when you were 10 years old?
when I was 10 years old, that's that's an interesting point in time, because at that time, that should not be the topic for today actually, but it's part of my life, so I'm gonna tell you. I had a severe eating disorder at this point in time. So that started when I was 11, when I turned 11, I think. So um, life turned a bit gray at that time. So it was not like the the usual childhood any longer. It was rather like I was just focused on heavy stuff, so getting my life under control. I think that's what's behind an eating disorder, or especially mine. So I had the feeling that my life is out of control. I don't have any control over my life. So this eating disorder helped me somehow to get my life under control again. So yeah, there were not any good people I looked up to at that point in time. I think it was just, yeah, it was just ill.
So were you eating too much food, too much sugar all the time, candy? What were you up to?
No, it was like I ate nothing at all, or I ate
Ah,
too much and then threw it up. Yeah, I don't know
ah.
the word for that. I think
But
it's anorexia
yeah,
in English.
yeah, anorexia is where you think you're fat and you don't eat. And then bulimia in English is where you put your finger in your mouth or you somehow make
Yeah,
yourself throw it up.
yeah, it was a mixture.
Mhm. So did you have any natural healing type people that connected with you at that time, or how did you find your path out of that life?
Yeah, that was a long way. So it was several years. I had a lot of therapists back then, so psychologists in Germany, but actually, to be honest, my experience was not too good. So yeah, I think I was not open to being healed, and the other one was not in a position, also to some natural healers. Yeah, but the problem always was that I was closed. So of course the people around me, my family, wanted me to become healthy again, but I did not. So anything went wrong. I was in some hospitals 2 times. The first time was horrible. That was just, yeah, there was nothing. So I went out of that, and the whole circle started to begin again. So it was just the same as before. And then I went to another hospital that was good, but it was still, yeah, it was not solved 100%. So it really solved 100% when I moved out of my family's home when I was 18. So I just needed to get out of this frame. I needed to be on my own, to be, to have my own life, to make my own decisions, to really rely on myself. That was what yeah, made me healthy again in the end.
Now, when you look back, can you think of the 1 to 3 reasons why you might have had that early destination of eating disorder and the other things that went along with that?
I was very premature. So I think my soul, so I believe every soul is in a certain body, in a certain family for a reason. Of course, that's what I believe. And I think my soul is older than my body, so it was always a few steps before me, in front of me. So it just wanted to go further, but it couldn't, because my body was not yet 18 years old, for example. So that was one of the main reasons, I think. And then it's a control thing. So I was someone who wanted to control anything. So that gave me control. And the third thing, maybe, yeah, that was a lack of self-worth for sure. So
Got it.
I always thought I'm not good enough. I'm not. There's also a, that's another topic with my birth. When my mother gave birth to me, there was a complication at the end. So when I was ready to come into this world, I wanted to go out, but I couldn't because I was too big, or the way was too, I don't know how to call that, the birth canal or
Yeah,
something.
the birth canal. Yes.
The birth canal, that was too small, so I couldn't get through. And that's when I just realized that when I had a ayahuasca ceremony 2 weeks ago. So that was really crazy. And then I realized that this is the reason for my lack of self-worth I had, because I thought I'm too much, I'm not good enough, I'm too big to get through that, to get into this world. And yeah, that explains so much to me. So I think these are the three reasons why I
Jeez.
developed that. Yeah.
Wow, that's fascinating. So the prenatal circumstances of your life, or the during natal, I don't know what the word is, when you're being birthed, those things had a profound effect on you.
Yeah.
And maybe it had effect on your mother and father as well, thinking about that in their unconscious mind and in their conscious mind throughout the next 20 years that were pivotal in your development.
Yeah, I don't know if it had an impact on them. I never talked to them about that because I just realized it 2 weeks ago. But yeah, probably it does have an impact on all the people around. Yeah.
So you mentioned being someone who looked at a direction and really worked hard on certain things. Did you have that when you were in school before you got into the workforce? Did you have that same mentality, working hard in school and trying to have high achievement?
Yeah. Yeah. So around that period when I had that eating disorder and everything was chaotic, I think no. So it was really chaotic. But after that, I was really disciplined. I was very ambitious, so I wanted to reach my goal. My goal was to have the best grades I could get. So I learned a lot. My friends told me, "You're crazy. You're only learning. We should go out and have some party." And I said, "I know I'm gonna learn for the final exams." So I was really, yeah, maybe too ambitious. I don't know, but yeah, that was me for all my life, and I think that was just a way of distracting myself from myself. So that's why I also started to work so much, because I couldn't be alone with myself, because then I would have to think about myself, and have a look at my feelings, which was frightening to me back then.
Yeah, I can see that there are a lot of people who live life in the busy lane and the fast lane because of not wanting to examine the world outside of them too much, which is very chaotic and can be very nasty at times, and not looking at themselves and their mind, body, and spirit, their relationship with others, because all of that is sometimes a rude awakening, and it's stressful. It requires work. It requires focus. It requires sometimes post-traumatic stress, PTSD, and it's just slowing down takes energy. I'm someone who lives.
Yeah.
I get a lot done in a day, but I live at a very even and sometimes slow pace, because I don't put 50 things on my plate. I put eight things on my plate, 10 things on my plate, and I work on getting them done. And my goal is to always be ahead. So when I'm ahead of my commitments and projects, and it always catches up to me towards the end of the project. You still have to do the push to get through it. But if I'm ahead in my daily goals, then I feel relaxed. I feel confident. I feel relieved. That's the best word. I feel relieved that I got some of those things done and off my plate, so I don't have to go crazy. I don't drink Red Bull. I don't drink coffee. I don't take drugs that are stimulants or any drugs really, except for supplements and minerals. So living that life where you have to stay up and get more out of your 16 hours, your 12 hours, whatever, that's something that I've done a little bit of, trying to get more out of a day. But I soon realized that it affected me in a very negative way. And I think it affects a lot of people in a negative way. Over to you, Julia.
Yeah, I totally agree. It affects many people in a negative way, but most of them don't even realize it. And that's what happened to me as well. I think that's a problem of the whole system. So you're working 9 to 5 all year long, and you maybe go on vacation for 2 weeks or something, but the first week is to get down a little, so to relax a little, and the second week you already think about getting back to work again. So that was at least my pattern in vacation. So yeah, that's the problem. You cannot relax. And that was also my problem. I worked so much that I couldn't think about anything. There was no energy left, so but nobody forced me. I don't want to say that anybody forced me to work so much, but it was just like I did it. I wanted to do it, and then there was no energy left to think about my life. And this only changed when I got an offer from my work, actually, to go on a project with a client to replace someone who was on paternity leave. And at first it was really scary, so I was like, oh my god, I cannot do that. I don't know what I need to do there, but I'm so glad I did it, because that was the best thing I could ever do, because I was not allowed to do extra hours. I was at home in the afternoon. It was summer, so I was just lying on my balcony in the afternoon, and it was sunny and it was all nice. It was so great, and I could finally start thinking about myself. And then the switch came, so that I changed my whole life and was born again. Yeah. But
Wow.
this was only in 2022. So I think before that, I wasn't ready to do that. That's why I needed to work so much, because I needed to distract myself, because I wasn't ready to feel what I had to feel once I started that transformation process. So I think many people are affected in a negative way, and many people are maybe caught in that red race, but for a reason. I think it's a protection measure by our system.
I think that our bosses and our bosses' bosses and our company, they like it when all we do is focus on work, if we can do it again the next day and the next day. So somehow we got to take care of ourselves,
Yeah.
or take a bunch of really unhealthy things to stay at that level until we crash. And Steve Jobs, crashed and died. I think he was 57 when he died. So he had those 20-hour days, 24-hour days sometimes, and maybe longer, trying to achieve his goals for himself, his company, his staff, and he's the director of it. So imagine if you're just somebody trying to prove yourself to keep your job, all the stress that you have to do, making very little money, having no stock options, all these types of things. And that's what a lot of people do just to keep their job. So before you comment on that, I want to click on this video of someone interviewing a psychologist from the Cleveland Clinic in the United States. His name is Dr. Adam Borland. Wie sagt man Burnout auf Deutsch?
It's burnout. I think there's no German word.
Der Burnout?
Yeah. Burned out. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know a German word for that. We use it in German as well. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to hit the record here and we'll see if you can hear what she's the interviewer here, the woman on the screen.
Well, I think we have a difficult time saying no. We have a difficult time maintaining necessary boundaries, especially given the technology that plays a significant part in the work field today. We are accessible 24 hours a day. And especially now with telehealth and all the virtual platforms, it takes our ability to disconnect from work and makes it all the more difficult. So people are essentially running constantly in order to address work responsibilities. And I see people across all stages of their career who are really saying, I need to do a better job finding this balance in order to preserve my physical and emotional.
So that's a pretty common statement, balance. And so, you know, when I talk to people, thankfully, I didn't have kids, and thankfully I didn't get married. And so what I did is I went away a lot, 4 months at a time, 6 months at a time. I was writing books, doing martial arts, doing fitness, doing long hikes, swims, all this type of thing. Sometimes having dinners with new friends on these travels. I did a lot of that in Spain, did some of that in France, did some of that in Hawaii, just many places around the world, a lot in California. And so this idea of self-examination, when you write a book and you start out with just a blank screen, or sometimes in the beginning when my computer wasn't working, I had to write on a notebook. And when you start out with nothing and you just pour things out of your head, a lot of emotions come with that. A lot of doubt comes with that. It's like writing a long letter to your boyfriend or girlfriend or your parents, and you're trying to get these hard things out. Writing is often like that. I tell people it's like breaking up with your favorite love of your life. Sometimes it happens frequently because it's just not coming out the way you want it, and all these emotions are coming out with that. But what I got out of all these writers' getaways is I got to know myself. And my martial arts instructor over in Benalmádena, Spain, Michael Andalus, who's a guy who grew up in Australia a lot. He's Spanish, grew up in Australia and studied Bruce Lee, and the guy that he studied with, Dan Inosanto, one of Bruce Lee's friends and devotees, was in Los Angeles. So he was a very Californian guy that I met in Spain in 1997 and 98, 2003. I hung out with this guy a lot. And I said, what do you get after all this teaching, all this work on yourself, all this martial arts? And he said, I get to know myself. So a lot of people think battle, combat, self-defense. And here's somebody telling me that he spent all these years, and the biggest thing he got was he got to know himself. Over to Julia for what she thinks on that.
Hi, this is Sifu Slim, author of The Aging Athlete. In this book, you're going to get to hear about two different groups of former high-performance athletes. One group, which is made up of 90% of the former athletes, does not do physical activity on a regular basis and tends to suffer the consequences of a sedentary lifestyle. The other group, which is made up of 10% of the former athletes, is doing physical activity on a regular basis and tends to thrive through the aging process, or at least has a better chance at coping with the aging process. We could have taken these folks to a lab and done all kinds of tests on them. Instead, we slowed them down and sat them down and asked them, in their own words, to describe why they are wired the way they are, so that we all, former athletes and non-athletes, can use some of their inspirational and motivational and mindset lessons in our own lives. I hope you pick up a copy today. You can go to theagingathlete.com. And when you have a chance to read it, I'd love to hear back from you to find out what your thoughts are on the stories of these aging athletes.
Yeah, I think that's often the case if we go with the flow with the life somehow, because our head is one thing and our heart is one thing. And I think our heart already knows the way for our life. Our heart is connected with our soul, and it just knows where you will be in 50 years or something. And our head is trying to make sense out of it. And it doesn't make sense, of course, because our head only knows what happened so far in your life. So it can only think of things that already happened, but many people want to change their lives completely, but they want to understand it. So that doesn't work, because if you want to see something else, you need to let go of your head and let your heart lead you. And I think that's what happens many times, because we want to reach a goal. We have a goal in our head, like, I don't know, martial arts or something. But what happens on the way is something completely different. And that's what happened to me as well. I mean, I wanted to travel. I just wanted to, have another job, basically. And then now I'm here in Mexico. So I don't know what happened, but I didn't understand it at all. I didn't have any plan. I just went with the flow, and life happened. And that's what makes it so beautiful. If you just really go with the flow and let life surprise you, because then you can see all the miracles in life. which you cannot see otherwise. Because if you if you have your goal in your head and you want to get there straight, you will just, it's like a tunnel. You only see what you want to see, but there's so much around us which we don't see.
So a lot of people ask me, what's the message that I get out of all of my coaching, mind, body, and spirit coaching, getting to know yourself, fitness, wellness, and lifestyle coaching. What is the bottom line message in all the stuff that I talk about? And it has to do with that getting to know yourself. If you know yourself, you're going to know when you're doing too much of one thing, not enough of another thing, which leads us back to the word balance. So the balance is what I tell people is the main word that I teach. If something's out of balance in your life and you're a workaholic and you just do caffeine and drugs and all these types of things, and you go to sleep with sleeping pills, Michael Jackson had that problem. A lot of people have to do that to go to sleep. And Prince, the other great person from Michael Jackson's time, he was doing all of these jumps off of the stage back in the 1980s, athletic moves, and he was landing them in these concerts. And when there's 20,000 people out in the audience or more, you have all this energy and you try to keep outdoing the jumps and the landings that you did previously, and you do another encore like Bruce Springsteen and another encore, and you just keep pushing it. Well, Bruce Springsteen just gets a hoarse voice. He's had a pretty long life. I think he didn't do drugs and probably didn't do sleeping pills that much in his life. He seems like a guy who can handle the hard work and keep performing. Whereas Michael Jackson and Prince both kept pushing themselves and both needed a lot of medication. And so Prince, because he kept injuring himself on all these jumps and acrobatics and long performances, he was taking all of these painkillers. And so you get addicted to those very quickly. And so when you're on and you're trying to compete and you're just going all the time, and then you go from that big high and busyness to back in your hotel or on a cruise ship to the low, you're going to these two extremes and you don't know where that balance lies in the middle. And so those are some of the things that I try to teach people. Get to know yourself, and I'll help you do that. And then we're going to work on balance so that you can get the most out of your day, but make sure that you can do this for weeks and months and years to come, so that you're a sustainable human. Over to you, Julia.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Nice that you teach that. Yeah, I think I agree with you, Sifu. It's all about balance. Yeah, and it's about the connection to yourself and about knowing yourself, like you said, because I think we often search for something on the outside, which is actually, I mean, we are searching for answers on the outside. We are asking, we're going to coaches, we are asking teachers, we're asking oracles, or I don't know, for answers, what we should do in our life. But actually the answer is inside of us. So what I learned is the reason why I was why my life was so chaotic and why I needed to distract myself from myself all the time was because I lost the connection to myself. I don't know when, maybe when I was born already, I don't know. But now I have it back. I feel I have the connection back, and now it's all easy somehow, because I don't need to find an answer on the outside. It's just on the inside. I just need to put all the noise away, which is on the outside. And then because the voice inside of us is very silent, it's not very loud, so you need to put all the noise away on the outside, and then you listen to that voice, and then you know what to do next, and if you're out of balance somehow. I realized that many times, also with food, and I don't know, with any kind of stuff. I just feel when it's too much. If we then react at that point in time, that's a different story. But if you can feel it, I think if you have that connection to yourself, it's easier to find the balance for yourself. That's what I wanted to say.
So, Julia, you said you got it back. You got the balance back, the feeling back. Where did you have it before in your 28 years?
The balance, I think the connection was lost. So I was completely.
Where did you have it? Did you have it at all, or was it you're talking about a prior life that you had that connection?
I think the connection is actually always there, but it's like it's like a radio, you know, there's a certain frequency you need to have so that you can connect. And my frequency was just not the right one for a long time. And then I started to listen to myself, to talk to myself, to get into contact with myself. And I dared to be alone, which was very scary to me back then. And then it's just it comes back. It's doing the work itself, actually. It's the process. The process works itself.
Thank you. I'm going to hear one more little bit of Dr. Adam Borland, see what he says here. And he just mentioned that because of telehealth and people being able to contact him all the time and send video and send messages, that doctors, of course, are having a hard time being balanced, because let's say they worked in a hospital setting on a long shift, 12 hours or something. And, you know, people in surgery and the emergency room, they might have a 24-hour shift or some incredibly long time duration. But here's a psychologist who you think is going to have a 6 to 8 hour patient load per day and have lunch and a couple of breaks and be able to work on his computer and write up some reports and some records and read some things that relate to helping his patients, these types of things. But he was talking about how in his own life, because of telehealth and just the scheduling, that doctors have a hard time being balanced. Let's hear a little bit more from Dr. Borland.
And it sounds like what you're describing are both physical boundaries, you know, maybe you're looking at your phone, your computer, and then also emotional boundaries, that stress, you know, I need to check my email, maybe I'm going to miss this message. Is that pretty fair to say?
That's unfortunately what we deal with on a day-to-day basis.
So you mentioned, you know, feeling like your tank is basically empty then, you know, and being really tired. You know, what are some of the other major signs that you're experiencing burnout?
You know, a lot of the individuals that I work with, there's kind of this question of what's the point? Is the work that I'm doing, is it really making a difference? Do I even really enjoy what I'm doing anymore? Or am I just kind of going through the motions? And that obviously is indicative of kind of a lack of satisfaction in the work that people are doing. And again, these are people that are new to their field or maybe right out of college. And then we're talking about individuals who have maybe been in their field for 30 plus years. And all of a sudden they're questioning, I don't know how much longer I can do this or I want to do this.
Fascinating. People wondering about their purpose and their satisfaction. We'll have to bring that up to the philosophical group as topics for a future discussion.
True.
Gosh, my goodness. When you examine people who are trapped, you know, you go through all those years of hard work, homework, education, going to conferences, and then you become a bachelor degree, a master's degree, a PhD, an MD, an engineer, whatever you're doing, you do all this work. And then finally they give you your desk or your clinic or whatever, they give you your place to work. And then you're doing all this work and it happens very quickly sometimes, or it could happen 30 years later that you wake up and you go, am I really getting any benefit? Am I benefiting people? Is the system sucking me dry? Is it teaching people the wrong things? What's going on with all this stuff? So tell me if you've had interactions with other people who've expressed those things to you, Julie, about not understanding this purpose and not getting any satisfaction.
Yeah, I think there are many people. So when I made the decision to quit my job without any plan afterwards, so I told all my colleagues and they were all like, "Oh my God, that's so interesting. I would love to do something similar, but I don't dare. I'm afraid. I couldn't do it. I'm not brave enough." And I think that's the point. So maybe many people realize that they are stuck in a situation where they don't want to be. I think many people do that, but they just don't dare to even think about it, to talk about it, or to do it in the end, because it's really scary, because you step into the unknown. You don't know what will happen afterwards. So this is really, it requires courage. Yeah. But I think many people are in that situation. And there's also some misunderstanding, I think, because when I quit my job and chose a different path, many people said, "Oh, you throw your whole life into the trash bin somehow," but it's not like that, you know? I mean, I've learned what I learned, and this is not, it's not gone. I still take it with me, and it will help me maybe in some other situations. And all of that was necessary to get to that point where I am now. So many people start to regret something and I wish I would have woken up earlier or something. It's not like that. You're in the right place at the right time always. That's what I think. So it's the perfect time. If you wake up now and you are 77 years old, that's perfect. Because maybe earlier you were not ready to do it, you know? And even if you have just 1 week in your life or even one day in your life where you can live fulfilled completely and you can live the life you want to live, that's perfect. That's way more than other people do in their lives.
What an attitude. I'm glad we had this conversation, Julia. That's why I want to tap into your generation of people and people who did take a look and self-examine and look at the world, because you're saying that just one day of being awakened and having feelings of fitting in your own body and mind and your open heart, all this type of stuff is worth all of the challenges, all of the trials that you've gone through. Fascinating. So that would be good. That last thing you said would be good for people who want to end their lives, to be able to hear that you're going to get one little moment where you're going to be seeing where the matrix is and where you are, and you're going to be free somehow.
Yeah, true. That would be good. That's also a topic, by the way, in my life. I was at a point where I wanted to end my life. Yeah, that was, so I would love to, if I had someone who told me what I tell you now back then, that would have been very good. Yeah. But yeah, I'm convinced that it's worth for one day. I mean, I had a lot of days now so far, and I really, even the first day when I started my road trip to Spain and when I arrived at the ocean, if I just had this one day and died afterwards, it would be great, great life, really.
I'm going to share the screen again and show people a television commercial by a big company, the Ajax company. And this is 1950 something. Let me see if it has the date. Early 1960s. Colgate Palmolive Company owns Ajax. So it's not the Ajax company, but Ajax is a very strong detergent for cleaning up floors, toilets, all these types of things. And it's a Colgate Palmolive, one of the biggest corporations of the 1960s in terms of home use products and toothpaste and all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to show you the commercial, and then I'm going to show you a person who used, with his musical group, his rock and roll group, they used this commercial to end their song because they realized that they were all poets and talented singers and musicians, and they'd all been in film school or other schools down in the Los Angeles area in the mid to late 60s. And they decided that once they got into touring music and had to deal with record companies and promotions, that they were selling out. They really wanted to be, you know, musicians and creative type people, but because of the trying to make a living at that, and you have to sell records and you have to get on the radio, you have to do concerts, you have to make contracts, you have to have lawyers and accountants, that you're basically having to step into the matrix in order to provide for yourself while you're doing your music. So that's an interesting subject. Jimi Hendrix had the same problem. Do you have any comments on that before I start the commercial, Julia?
Not really to that topic, no, but it's, yeah, I understand it. I mean, it's also like the coaching business, you know. So I am a coach and I want to help people, and I know I need to get into that Instagram topic, for example. I don't like Instagram, but I know I need to get into that system somehow to work in that job somehow. I'm not sure if you are on Instagram, Sifu, but I think nowadays it's, yeah, that's a must somehow.
I'm so heavily into YouTube that I don't spend a lot of time on Instagram, but I'm getting told by all kinds of people, look at me on Instagram. What's your Instagram page? So I think that's probably going to be a goal for the second half of 2024 is to do more with Instagram and become more fluent in its use. So here's the Ajax commercial, and it might go into the ad blocker in the beginning. So people be patient.
Thing I've got Ajax. It takes lots of cleaning power to get his shirts this clean. Ajax. Now that's what I call a strong detergent.
Ajax laundry detergent is stronger than dirt.
So to play that once again.
Ajax laundry detergent is stronger than dirt.
Okay, so hold that thought on Ajax. And then I'm going to go to the musicians page so you can hear what they did with that Ajax commercial. Here's the Doors from the late 60s. And probably their most famous short song, Touch Me, Baby, or Touch Me. Come on, come on, come on, now touch me, babe.
Come on, come on, come on, come on, now touch me, babe. Stronger than dirt.
So they decided on this national television show that was the biggest television show in the United States at the time for entertainers. They decided, and they may have done this in the recording, but the last few notes with the symphony behind them, a small group of musicians behind them playing trumpets and trombones and other instruments, they all hit those notes, stronger than dirt, which has nothing to do with the song Touch Me, Baby. It's just their way of having fun, talking about how the corporate world and the money world is controlling their lives and the lives of other musicians. I was alive when they did this song, but I was a little kid and I didn't even know about the Doors in 1967, 69, 71, this when Jim Morrison died. And I did know a lot about the Beatles and other groups, but I didn't know much about the Doors. I was too little of a kid. But Jim Morrison, whose father was a admiral in the military and had to follow the rules and had to be a leader of men and deal with politicians and the people involved in the Vietnam War. Jim Morrison was a kid and his father was living, taking the family around the different parts of America and different parts of the world with them. So Jim got to live that life. And then I think he started doing some private schools in his teens. And then he went to UCLA Film School and he was very good at that creative type stuff. But he knew he could write poetry, or he enjoyed writing poetry, and other people liked his poetry. And it was in that freedom of expression movement in the late 60s, early 70s, that's, there's a bit of rebellion. There's a bit of saying, what are we doing? We just fought World War I and World War II and the Korean War, and his dad was involved, I believe, in the World War II and the Korean War and Vietnam. If not, he was involved with the second two. And he realized, that his dad was a good guy. They got along fine, but he realized that his dad was caught up in this matrix, and he didn't want to be part of that. So these people who were born like the Beatles in the 40s, a lot of these people looked at that devastation of the big war, World War II, and they were shaking their heads at this craziness and all of the building up of nuclear weapons and weaponry afterwards and during the Cold War. And then finally, the music craze, thanks to the Beatles and thanks to the peace movement and the hippie movement and the flower children, all these things, this whole thing created this nexus. And a lot of it happened in California in the beginning, and then it spread around the world, places like Berlin and other places in Europe and London, etc. And Jim Morrison, American guy that didn't want to sell out, he says, stronger than dirt. And so that's one of my favorite little stories of that era. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, that describes the situation many people are in, I think. Especially COVID, I think, was one thing that happened that led many people to think about the system and the matrix, and many people broke free. I think many people woke up, if you want to put it like that. But I think many people fell asleep again as well. So yeah, it's up to anyone itself, of course. No judgment.
They can wake up and they can have that one day eventually. I think that would be a good
Yeah.
a chapter of your book, or maybe your book, one day. And you have an arrow somewhere on the title going up or horizontally, the arrow that you're going to have this one day, and maybe a little cartoon figure going like this. And somehow the person is stressed, but they know there's going to be one day when they're awakened and alive in a whole new way.
That's a nice idea. Thanks. I will keep that in mind. Yeah, but one day, that's also a phrase many people use, you know, one day I will do that. One day I will be living next to the ocean. It's always the question, one day or day one, because if you always say one day and tomorrow, next week, next year, then you will never do it.
One day, yeah. Well, you know, the one day that you mentioned sounds like being hopeful. You're in the grind, you're in the matrix. I tell people, look, make the best of it. That's one thing I have on my Friday calendar at 8 in the morning. Make the best of it, because you don't know what's going to come. You don't know what's going to pop out of your mind, your body, whatever, what you're going to run into. And the chaos, you could lose a friend or have an argument with a friend or a loved one. You don't know what's going to happen. You just have to take a breath, try to relax, expel your breath, and make the best of it. And another thing besides that is do the best you can. So you bring those two things together. And that's what I think our ancestors, during all these wars I just mentioned, and before that, there were many times of difficult challenges and food famines and weather problems and all these other things, and overpopulation, not enough men around, not enough women around. There's all kinds of problems in the history of the world. But if you look at our ancestors, why did they keep having kids? It's because they said, we're going to make the best of it. We're going to do the best we can. And no matter what happens, we're just going to do it. We're going to live life. We're human beings. Animals don't stop having children because of problems. They just do what they do until they pass away. Over to you, Julie.
Yeah. That's true, Sifu. That comes from that time, from the wars. And of course, it's in our parents and our grandparents' bodies, and it's programmed in our system to make the best out of it. But I think there's a misunderstanding behind it again, because it's so negative. The interpretation is so negative nowadays, because it's like, okay, I have what I have, but I don't need more, and I make the best out of it. But many people don't realize that they have the option to get more. It's not like just use what you have, but use what you have and use it, but it's rather like take it as a stair or something, a step you can go on to and step even higher. That's my interpretation of it. And I mean, we live in, thank God, we live in times where, I mean, there's still war in this world, but it's not affecting us that much as it affected our grandparents or our parents. So we are in a very good situation where we could choose what we want to do. And that's also what I talked about to my colleagues when I quit my job. And I mean, they were 20 years old, for example, and they said they don't dare. We live in a very privileged time. We've got the option to do whatever we want. We've got the privilege to even think about fulfilling ourselves, developing ourselves, personal development and all that stuff. That was not something that came to the minds of our grandparents, because they just had some other chaos to solve first. But now we have that option, so why don't we use it? That's what I don't understand, so why not? What should happen? What is the worst case? That's what I ask the people always when they tell me, oh, I don't like my life is, yeah, it could be better. And I ask them, but what do you want? What are your dreams? What do you want to do? And then they say, oh no, it's not possible for me. I cannot change anything. And I say, why not? What is your worst case? Yeah, and the worst case usually is the situation you are in at this very moment. So what is happening out there? Just do it. The worst case is your actual situation. You've got nothing to lose, So yeah.
Well, either you can become a minister of some kind, a shaman of some kind of a leader, or what you're doing right now, life coach. I hope the world recognizes you for that positive and realistic and rational and practical way to look at our situations, because we're all in challenges. Even if we have all the money in the world, we've got all these challenges, and we don't know what to do in our next move a lot of times. So I think you have a skill, especially the way you're looking at these things, that's going to help you and it's going to help other people. So I hope you find the right venue so you can distribute that wisdom and that outlook to the people who are ready to hear it.
Thank you so much. I'm trying to. I won't give up.
I'm going to pop on my website here for people. Just wanted to mention that if people go to my website here, they can book a coaching session, fitness, wellness, and life coaching. They can get a hold of some of my books, my YouTube channel, which is over 1,000 videos now, learn about diet, learn about whatever. And so that's me. And I will ask Julia if she has a way to contact her for people who want to connect and get some coaching from her now.
Yeah, Instagram is best. So Instagram, on Instagram, you can find a lot of videos for myself. I post input there daily. So yeah, I'm happy about anyone contacting me, or you can also book a coaching right away. But yeah, we can also have a conversation first. I'm always happy to talk about that topic. It's just, that's my passion in life. And that's what I was looking for. Something which is meaningful, something which is my passion, which gives energy to me and does not only rob it, because that's what Texas did in the end somehow. It felt like it just robs me energy, but it doesn't give me anything back. And yeah, now I found something else.
Wonderful. So I will put that in there for people to connect with Julia. And my last coaching tip for people who live in the tropics, including Julia, is tiger balm, and balsame de tigre. And so it has eucalyptus oil, cajeput oil, and other products in there. It's all natural. And it works very well to prevent insects from finding your blood, which is what they're looking for when the mosquitoes come down. Where's your blood? And this puts up like a vapor. And you know how if you put it under our eyes, it'll make our eyes tear. It does the same thing to mosquitoes. It kind of disorients them. And then if you get a bite, it's also good for treating the bites and small things. So tiger balm, it's in most places you can find this. And I encourage people to look it up. I get the one that's clear, so not the brown one that stains your clothes. So I just get the one that's the clear one. And I use this pretty frequently, and I always have it in my backpack or my fanny pack, and I'll just go here, boom. You don't want to put it right under your eyes. You can put it on your nose for a cold, and see, dubis conk. And there you have it. There you have it, my little coaching tip right now, tiger balm. And I hope you take up on the natural way and not using a bunch of sprays that have a toxic effect on the planet when we throw that stuff away, the cans, and also on you. It goes right into your pores and your lungs and your bloodstream. And a lot of those things are really harmful chemicals that we don't want. So any final words from Julia on things for people to remember out there about life and challenges?
Slow down. I think that's the best advice. That was the best advice for me. It always is. I mean, it's we are all on our journeys, nobody's perfect, nobody's there yet, because if you completed this journey of finding yourself, then you are dead, I think. So that's what the journey is. But slowing down is the best advice that I can give to people, because it's just, yeah, if you slow down, if you slow down your body, if you just sit down, put the noise away on the outside and just breathe, what you automatically do is connect to yourself, and then you will find the energy you will find your energy back, and you will find the idea, what is the next step. So the way forward is the way back, actually, to take one step back. Yeah.
So there's a song from a little bit after Jim Morrison, I believe, and it goes like this. Slow down, you move too fast. You gotta make the moment last, just skipping down the cobblestones. Feeling groovy. So it's feeling groovy by slowing down, making the moment last. So that's what I want for people to do. Sing a little song, take a walk with yourself, take a walk with someone you care about, take a walk with a coati, the mapaches, the raccoons of Playa del Carmen area. They're going slow, right? They move slow.
Yeah, they do.
They get a lot done, and they have nice fur, and they can climb all these trees. They have a pretty good life. So as long as we don't encroach on them too much, but that's what's happening, unfortunately, right here. So, but slow down, you move too fast, make the moment last and feel groovy. And that's what I want to share with you today. I'm so glad Juliet Zink shared her time with us today. Maybe we'll do one down the road a bit on a little bit different topic, and wishing you all the best, people out there, in your mind, body, and spirit, fitness, wellness, and health. And I'm Sifu Slim with Julia, and we appreciate your likes and your subscribes down below, and let us know in the comments if you have any comments or questions. We'll talk to you soon. Aloha.
Thank you so much.